What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Right Way Sports Network YouTube channel. Today, I'm with Corey Wootton, former NFL and Chicago Bears defensive end. Super thrilled to be here. Today, I'll be talking to Corey about his career journey as well as his thoughts on the circumstances affecting the league with COVID. Welcome, Corey, and thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right, so just wanted to get started. Before we get going with football questions, I just wanted to let the viewers know, and you could let them know what you're doing now that you're no longer in the NFL.
So since I've been retired, I do broadcasting up in Chicago. I work for Fox 32 out in Chicago. I do a lot of real estate. So I have 10 investment properties. I do flips, rentals. Been dabbling in real estate and seeing the value there. And I'm all about flexibility nowadays. Now that I'm retired, being able to spend time with family and live the good life. Golf a little bit, work out. So.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the golf, I just wanted to ask where that passion came from, because obviously you have a lot of free time now versus playing the NFL. Where did that passion start, I guess?
Well, shoot, for golf, like it was something that we had so many different charity events when I was playing in the league. I was never into golf. I kind of thought it was boring. I thought it was stupid. I didn't want to get into it. I was like, takes up too much time. And then 2 years ago, I actually my cousin who's from New Jersey, he actually came out here to visit me in St. Louis, and we went to a range and. He's kind of showing me a little bit because he's been golfing for a couple of years. He's kind of showing me a couple of things, and I hit a couple of good drives. And I was like, ever since then, I've been hooked. And I try to get out at least once or twice a week and go to the range a little bit. But it's a lot of fun, and I think until you fully immerse yourself into golf, I would say it's one of the hardest sports out there. I think for sure. I don't know if you ever golfed before, but
yeah, it's tough. I golfed freshman year in high school and then stopped and came back and
yeah,
stayed in the summer, and it wasn't good. So it's
yeah,
difficult.
it's super tough. It's something that you have a respect for when you see those guys on TV and they're struggling, and because you've been there before, but it doesn't happen to them as much as it happens to you.
Yeah. Is there any particular golf course that you would love to play down the line? Obviously, there's a bunch of different.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, man. Like probably all the TPCs, Pebble Beach for sure.
Yeah.
There's one in Oregon, Bandon Dunes, that one too. So yeah, I mean, there's so many different ones I'm going to check off the bucket list. I might go to one in Lake Tahoe this summer. So yeah, those views are crazy. You ever see the one where they have what is that classic where they have all the athletes and celebrities playing? I think it's like the lake.
One off the top of my head, but there's so many.
But when they show the views of the water in the background and all that, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move to a little more NFL related stuff. With all the uncertainty due to COVID-19, do you think you would have felt comfortable playing the NFL this season?
I think I would have. I think it would have just been a different circumstance. Like I probably would have just had to stay with my, immediate family, my wife, my kids, and, my parents, her parents probably would have been a little bit isolated during the season, at least until we could, quarantine again, just because, most people that are older, it affects them differently than, somebody, my age in my 30s or someone like you. So just be cognizant of that. And I probably would have played, I think they were doing things the right way, and, they had a good approach about it. And I'm surprised that they got through a whole season. When it first happened, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way, because they're not in the bubble like the NBA did or hockey did. I'm like, there's no shot. But they ended up pulling it out. And I think people were really looking forward to football. I think it was a different feel because everyone talks about basketball, baseball, but like football is American sport. I don't care what anybody says. It's religion around here. So I think people were really excited to actually have a season and be able to gather. I know before it got cold, people were doing stuff outside and, trying to keep their small football groups together to still watch the game. So I think it was great that we had football.
Yeah. Speaking of them being able to get through the season. There was a couple postponed games early in the season. I remember the Steelers had a lot of issues. How do you think Roger Goodell and his staff did so well to complete the season?
Yeah, I think testing, that's the biggest thing. They were trying to test everybody with the rapid testing. And with that technology out, I think it allowed people to stay on the eight ball. And like you said earlier on with the Steelers, when that happened, I think the Titans, right, there was an issue with their team too. I was like, I don't know how it's gonna last. I was like, this is the last straw right here. And then they were able to get through it, and yeah, it ended up working out. So hats off to them, because they did something that nobody thought they can do. Baseball tried to do it, and they had some issues early on, but I think the football really did a good job with it.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll shift to your playing career. Obviously, your first sack was against Brett Favre. What was going through your mind on that play? It was obviously Monday night and prime time as well.
Well, we had to take a timeout that play, because I don't know, for whatever reason, I was the rotational defensive end, and Julius Peppers had ran off the field, but I was not paying attention, and we had 10 men on the field, so our D-line coach, our defensive coordinator, Rob Marinelli, had to call a timeout, and he was just screaming at me like, "What the," cursing at me and whatnot, like, "What are you doing? He's like, "Who make a play," or whatever. And then so I go in there, I'm like, I got to do something, or else I'm probably never going to play again. So I go in there, and I, able to beat Bryant McKinney, left tackle, and then able to get Favre, and I kind of just slammed into the ground. And I kind of got up and didn't know what happened. I remember asking like people, like, "What happened?" Like, they're like, "You sacked him." Like, I was like, "I don't know. It was a blur." Like, it was literally like a blur. And everyone's like, "Hey, you got your first sack against Favre." I'm like, "What?" Like, I had no clue what happened. It was like it went so fast or whatever. I didn't know. The ball was all over the place. He fumbled. Like, I didn't know what happened. So it was a good feeling, especially we clinched the NFC North on that night, and Devin Hester broke some kind of punt return record as well. So it was a good night for the Bears.
Follow up to that, has there been any or have you talked to Brett Favre ever since that, or is that not something that happened?
No, I never talked to him. So after the game, I think he came out like late, like right before everyone got off the field, but I didn't get a chance to say anything to him. But it's funny because my agent actually sent me like the picture of when I sacked Favre, and he wrote on there like, he made it seem like it was Brett Favre writing to me like, "Hey, Brooke, like lucky shot," or something like that. Like, and everyone's like, "Did he really send that to you?" I'm like, "No, it's my agent." But yeah, I never got a chance to talk to him. But yeah, it's unfortunate, because he's a guy that had a lot of concussions throughout his career, and battled some things with painkillers and whatnot. And it's kind of a deadly combo. But it's good to see him now, doing well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of, you mentioned Julius Peppers before. You had the opportunity to play with him, BrianUrlacher, and Charles Tillman on a loaded defense during your time in Chicago. What kind of impact did those guys have on you, both on and off the field?
Man, they were huge, especially Peppers. Because we played the same position. We played opposite each other for 2 years when I was the starter opposite of him. And I mean, he's a guy that really doesn't talk too much. He more leads by example. And he's the ultimate pro. I mean, a guy, that was, 11, 12, 13 years in the game, and still, one of the fastest, most athletic guys out there, and just how he approached practice every day, and didn't take any days off. And I always tell everybody, like, he is when you talk about like an artificially created player, like, people say that Madden or NCAA, that's him right there. He's a guy that like never got injured, still had his speed, strength, size throughout his whole career. I mean, could run as fast as defensive backs. I mean, never really lifted for real, because he would get too bulky if that were the case. And he was 300 pounds, like no body fat on him. So, I mean, just an absolute specimen. And then you talk about BrianUrlacher. I mean, arguably one of the best linebackers ever to play the game. Ultimate leader. I mean, a guy that would call out the plays before they even happened. That's how smart he was. It's film study preparation. And then Peanut Tillman, same way, the peanut punch. I mean, go down in history as like one of the best to do it. And I think I think he deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame as well. I mean, great guy. And that defense when I was there, especially through 2012, I mean, we had one of the best defensive years in NFL history. I mean, takeaways, what we were able to do. We started out the season 7-1 and then finished 10-6 and didn't make the playoffs. And that's when Lovey had got fired. But those guys were great teammates, great people, and I'm glad I was able to play with them.
Yeah, it's awesome. Next thing I wanted to ask, you played for every team in the NFC North besides the Green Bay Packers. Was there anything particularly different from each organization you played for?
Yeah, so I would say, I think being, for Chicago, being for playing for Minnesota, and then playing for Detroit. I mean, Chicago, is probably the most diehard city I've seen. I mean, no disrespect to Minnesota or Detroit, but it's just not on the same level. I mean, Chicago lives, breathes, eats football. They've been waiting since 1985 to win another championship. I mean, they are diehard. They know everybody from the practice squad to the last guy dressing on Sundays, whether you're a special teamer or you're BrianUrlacher. They know who you are. They recognize you. I still get recognized to this day in Chicago. I mean, show a lot of love. And that's what you love to see, like cities like that where, football is everything. I'm like, Pittsburgh's another city like that. New York, Jersey, with the Giants and Jets, they're diehard as well. So it's good to see those type of cities, especially Chicago, one of those hardworking, tough cities, and they love their football.
Yeah, I think I actually got a chance to go to Soldier Field a couple of years ago during the offseason, so there was no games going on, but it's like a great city. I think I've enjoyed it when I went to Chicago, so I definitely agree with you on that one.
Did you try the pizza there?
Yeah, I think we did try it. It's definitely.
Would you go to Lou Malnati's or Giordano's? Which one?
I don't remember. It might be the second one. Not too sure.
Giordano's?
Yeah, I think so.
So was it more of like a pie, it looked like a pie, or did it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that's a big topic too. Because obviously you're from New Jersey, so pizza New York style is right. A big deal. So what did you think of the pizza compared to?
Yeah, it's definitely different, but you got to try it when you go there. It's one of those things kind of knock off your bucket list.
Exactly. It's always good, and the thing is, Chicago's a steak city, man. Like steakhouses that's what they're known for. That and the deep dish pizza and Chicago style hot dogs. So Portillo's, a lot of good food there.
Yeah. You mentioned before that you obviously do some stuff with Fox over in Chicago. So I wanted to move on to some stuff with the Bears now in 2021. Obviously, reports surfaced that the Bears could have been interested in trading for Carson Wentz prior to him getting moved to the Colts today. Do you think the team should trade for a guy like Deshaun Watson? I know he's on the trade block. Or do you think they should stick with Mitchell Trubisky or Nick Foles in 2021?
I definitely think they should acquire somebody else. I don't think the Deshaun Watson thing is going to work out because I doubt Houston's going to let him go. He's like a once in a lifetime type of quarterback, a franchise guy, and they're going to do everything they can to surround him with players. This year, it sucked what happened to him. He traded away from Hopkins. Just really didn't have the offensive weapons. But I think this offseason, in free agency and the draft, they're going to try to surround him, with different weapons, O-line, the whole bit, because you have a stud there. He's young. You want to keep him happy, because he's going to be one of those guys that hopefully retires with you. But I think the Bears, I think they should go after Cam Newton. And people might, what do you think? I think he's a guy that's really hungry because I think last season, he's coming off a couple bad seasons, right? Yeah. And I think the talent is still there. I think the Patriots is one of those schemes where I didn't think it fit him that well because he's a guy that can stretch the ball deep. Dink and dunk throws, that's not really his thing.
Right.
In Matt Nagy's scheme, being able to use your feet, the dual threat, because basically it's kind of like Andy Reid's, Chiefs offense. I mean, they take a page in there. Obviously, Andy Reid is more experienced and with his play calling and whatnot, but it's similar. It's designed for quarterbacks that can make things happen with their feet, on the run. And I think Cam Newton's a guy that really wants to prove that he's still got it. and I think a 1-year deal, you give him the option, if he does well, he can extend him. But I think that's a great situation. And you bring somebody else in as well that, can be a starter as well.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting one. I don't think I've ever heard that one so far in the offseason, but hey, who knows? But you mentioned D-Hop before and how he's a extremely talented receiver. The Bears had their own talented guy who pretty much goes under the radar, in my opinion, and Allen Robinson. And free agent. Do you think they could bring him back, or is that a situation where you think he might go elsewhere?
I think they need to bring him back because look at how he performed even without the quarterback position. Mr. Trubisky struggled the past couple of years, and Allen Robinson was coming off an ACL before he came to the Bears. In Jacksonville, he had that really good season down there, and then had an ACL tear. So it was kind of a risky acquisition for them, hoping he'd get back, and he's shown that he's back. No lingering issues from the knee. So I think you got to pay him. I hope they do, because that's a guy I think is a franchise number one receiver, and hopefully they can bring some other guys in there as well to, Mooney had a really great season this year. But maybe one other guy they can, and Jimmy Graham had a good season as well in the red zone. So hopefully if they could bring one other guy with Robinson, I think that can help, and hopefully they get the quarterback situation solidified, man, because it's been a tough couple of years.
Yeah, I personally love Allen Robinson. I've always enjoyed watching him play. So hopefully they can bring him back. We'll see what happens. But just wanted to move on. Do you have any early predictions for 2021? Could we possibly see a rematch of Pat Mahomes and Tom Brady in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think so. Thing is, man, the Bucks are going to be hard to beat. They have so many weapons offensively. Defensively, they were playing great. Spagnuolo, his history with the Giants and some of those great defenses he has. I think it's so hard to beat them. I think we could see an 8th Super Bowl for Tom Brady.
Okay. And then last thing I wanted to ask you was, as someone who now works in the field after your playing career, what would your advice be for college students like me who are looking to go into the sports media business?
I would just say, just do something that differentiates yourself from everyone else. Whether it's your sense of humor, the spin you have on things, because it's a very competitive field, and the market's getting smaller. So you got to do something to kind of stand out from other people. So whether it's your personality, whether you're really good with stats, just find your niche and go with that.
Yeah, I'll definitely take you up on that. Like I said before, thank you so much for joining me. I know you have a podcast. Do you want to plug that so we can put that in the comments?
Yeah, so I have a podcast. We haven't done it in a while, man. So two of my buddies from back home in New Jersey, it's called Three Brothers Podcast. It's on iTunes, Spotify, the whole bit. Man, we've took like a two-month hiatus. We're gonna get back into it. We've been talking about it. But you can follow us. We got an Instagram, we got a Facebook. Like I said, we're on iTunes, Spotify, and we're gonna be dropping some new stuff. It's the quarantine has been tough, so we're gonna rally it together and get some episodes out there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciated it, and just take care.
Yeah, take it easy, bro.